Ladies and gentlemen, happy Tuesday. Welcome back. I was punctual this week. Couldn't be late 2 weeks in a row. We got a special one this time around. I would like for you guys to welcome a buddy of mine. His name's Jesse Ortega. He's a professional badass, if you couldn't tell by the title of the episode. I've been cool with Jesse for a while. We have a very enjoyable, low-maintenance friendship where we see each other when we see each other, and it's always a good time. But I have watched this guy turn into a fucking monster. I mean, he does it all. He is your bona fide hero. And on top of that, dude's jacked. I mean, he walked into the house, and I, dapped him up, gave him a hug, and I was like, this is a mountain of a man. So Jesse's doing something right, and I knew sitting down with him was going to be not only enjoyable for us to catch up a little bit, but we got to just share some stories, and he dives into his time as a fucking recon Marine and a firefighter. We dive into the Palisades fires and how that experience was for him, and then a little bit of what it means to be a family man and be able to balance an insane work and then home life type of lifestyle. So yeah, I had an absolute blast. This is a really fun, different, unique episode compared to some of the other stuff we do. This is a lot more kind of like lore sharing than it is like personal self-improvement. And so I hope you guys like the slight switch up of pace. I definitely enjoyed it in the moment. But without further ado, let's get right into it. This is episode 14 with Jesse Ortega. Thank you guys for being here. Hope you enjoy. And here we go.
All right, so yeah. So Jesse Ortega. I'm 29 and I've been married since 2017.
Wow.
3 kids now, so I got a little army on them, dude. And then yeah, I grew up out here in Lancaster and Palmdale area. Joined the military straight out of high school in 2014. I enlisted. 2015 I ended up going to boot camp. So fucking 10 years ago now.
Wow.
And then I did 5 years active. I got out February of 2020, right when COVID happened.
Holy shit.
Wild time in history. And then I went back into the reserves shortly after. And then been doing that since. And then I also got hired on the Los Angeles City Fire Department in 2022. And I've been doing that since. So got 2 little careers going, and then my wife and kids, dude. And that's all I'm about now.
It's a couple full plates.
Yeah. There's a lot of shit going on.
Dude, I'm honored you found time.
Yeah.
Where you're like, yeah, we'll sit down.
Yeah, when
and
you asked
fucking
me, I
plab.
was like, yeah, dude, why not? Let's do it.
Yeah. You're one of the people where, like, if I like scroll on Instagram, everyone's like, oh, here's the food I ate, or oh, here's like, you know, like my dog, and then you'll be like, like I'm flying through the air with nothing but a backpack on right
dude.
now. I'm like, this guy's fucking awesome. Like it's great. And so and then on top of that, the Palisades fires are happening, and then you're like posting up like, oh yeah, like here we are.
Yeah,
fuck
dude.
it. And I'm like, holy shit, like I gotta pick his brain. Like I gotta figure out, like,
Definitely, dude. Yeah, the thing in the military is wild too, because that's what we were talking about earlier. Like, are you glad you did that?
right.
Do you regret doing it?
Mhm.
And yeah, there's definitely times where I regret shit that happened, or I regret decisions that were
Mhm.
made.
Or think about what could have gone different.
Exactly, yeah. But overall, like, I've done a lot of cool shit.
Dude, yeah.
And just my job in the Marine Corps lets me do a lot of cool shit.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of stupid things that come with it, obviously, and I don't even think Marine Corps or my job specific, that's anywhere in the military,
Yeah.
or even
Life.
yeah, and just anywhere in the world. So I mean, I'm pretty happy with what I got to do, because I've traveled the world, I've done a lot of fucking cool things,
Right.
flew through the air with nothing but a backpack, you
Right,
know?
right.
A lot of cool things that happened, so I'm glad I did it.
What has your career in the military entailed, essentially? Like, I don't
Yeah.
want to like make you fucking list every excruciating detail, but
Oh,
more or
you're
less
good,
like I
dude.
don't even know what you do, bro. I just know
You're
you're a
good.
badass, and that's about it.
So I am a recon Marine.
Holy shit.
Yeah, and I actually joined the Marine Corps, or I enlisted in the Marine Corps. I wanted to be a firefighter because my whole life, ever since I was like 10, and I knew, you know what, I'm probably not going to be a pro baseball player.
Right.
I'm gonna go.
Felt.
Yeah, I'm gonna go firefighter. So I wanted to do that. So when I initially enlisted, that was the contract I signed, and I was slated to go in like September of 2015. I had to wait like a full year after I enlisted.
Right.
So I was like, all right, whatever. And at the time, I was working at the drive-through dairy, right outside the Mary Callender's on K
Oh,
and
okay.
17th.
Okay,
So
yeah.
I was working there. And then one day, it was like January 30th. Actually, January 30th was the day. And my recruiter, he pulled up, and I knew it was him because he was big into Mustangs. He had specific like Mustang cars.
Right.
So I pull up, and I told my coworkers like, "Hey, I'll go get this car." And he was like, "Hey, dude, what time do you get off work?" I was like, "Oh, I'm closing today. I get off at 10." He was like, "Damn." He's like, "Well, you know, we got an opportunity for you. You're the first person we thought of."
Whoa.
I was like, "What is it?" He's like, "So we just drug tested some kid at the station, or at the recruiting station. He failed his drug test, so we can't send him to boot camp." They're like, "We need somebody to take his spot." They were like, "We want you to take his spot. It's a yes or no right now." I go, "Yeah, sure. Fuck it. Let's do it." He was like, "Okay, cool. Well, I need you to go quit your job right now and then come into the office to sign your paperwork." He's like, "Because you're leaving to boot camp, not tomorrow, but the next day."
Wow.
I was like, "Oh, shit. Like, this is happening, dude." Life changed in a flash. And then when I got to the station, the contract I originally signed, I couldn't do anymore. Which I was pretty butthurt at it.
Right.
Because, and I'm sure Joel can tell you this stuff, but like military recruiters, they'll lie to people. And I was really close with my recruiter, so I always tell myself, nah, he wasn't screwing with me. But,
Right.
you know, maybe he was.
Right.
But
Maybe
because
a
of
little bit
like
above.
I was going like 9 months, 8 months early, now the school dates, because after boot camp you go to like that specific school for,
Right.
for
You
the
like
job you're doing.
specialize.
Yeah. So now the school dates didn't line up. So he was like, "You have to pick another job." And luckily for me, when I took the ASVAB, I got a high score on it. Not high score, but like generally high.
Yeah, decent one.
Yeah, and so I qualified for a lot of jobs. And I was like very specific when I was joining. Like, I don't want like an office style job.
Right.
I don't want to like have some boring ass, dumb job. I want to like do exciting stuff.
Yeah.
And at the time I was like, that's why I want to be a firefighter.
Right.
Like, in the military, and then when I get out, I'll go be a firefighter.
Yeah, easy
have that
transition.
on my resume, yeah. And so they were like, "You could do this, you could do that." Ooh, and it was two of them. They were looking at the computer screen. They looked at each other like, "You could do recon." I was like, "I don't know what that is." They're like, "You'll be good. Trust me. I think you'll be good for recon." So they're like, "All right." And they signed me up right then and there. No idea what recon was until I got there. And then the thing with recon too is you have to go through a selection process for it, because it's not special operations. We don't belong to the special operations command.
Right.
But it's special operations capable. So you have to go through a selection process. I didn't know there was like a tryout for it.
Yeah.
So like people in boot camp, and then in my follow-on infantry training, people ask your contract, what's your contract? What's your contract? And it would get to me, and I'd be like, "Oh, I'm recon." Everybody's like, "You're not going to make it. You're going to quit. You're going to do this." And in my head, I still don't know there's a tryout. So I'm thinking like, I already got the contract, idiot.
Dude, I'm already made it.
I already made it. What are you talking about? Yeah, and then you get there, and day one I figured out like what it was, and I was like, "Oh fuck, dude, like, this sucks." And
you told them, bro. You're like, "I don't want no boring ass office job."
Yeah, dude. And it's like on average, like 80% attrition rate, whether you fail or people quit. Most people quit.
Right.
And so I just kind of made a deal with myself, like, like if I fail like a physical event or a test or something and I get dropped, I'll be cool with that.
Yeah.
But if I quit,
if I bitch out,
I'm not going to be able to like go to my friends or my family or my kids in the future
Right.
and like say that I'm not a quitter and like that's not
Yeah.
who I am. So I was like, had a like good conversation with myself, like I'm gonna see this out, and then I just kept not quitting, and then fucking made it one day, and then it's all history from there, dude.
Hell yeah. For someone who has like zero military like knowledge at all, how would you describe recon to them? If that word means nothing to them.
There's a lot.
Also, I have some water if you want.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, I definitely want some. Get another beer here shortly.
Yeah.
Recon, like I said, is special operations capable.
Mm-hmm.
And it's short for reconnaissance.
Mm-hmm.
And are you familiar at all with what reconnaissance is in the military?
But I'm more or less allowing for the people who I know don't know.
Yeah, so essentially like what our bread and butter is supposed to be in that job is, you've seen the movie Lone Survivor?
Yeah.
So they get dropped off
mm-hmm.
and they walk up to, some mountain point. They camouflage up, they hide in the trees, and they're taking pictures or they're reconnoitering a specific, area of operation. And that specific mission that they did was that town.
Mm-hmm.
And they're trying to confirm or deny presence of certain people,
mm-hmm.
certain aspects, establish like some kind of continuity of life. So that way they can then leave, report that to their higher ups,
mm-hmm.
and then they can make intelligence from the information we give them,
mm-hmm.
and then they can plan follow-on missions on that. So you go behind enemy lines and you do essentially that kind of mission set, but there's a lot more that we could do. There's like limited small-scale raids,
mm-hmm.
so like going in and raiding a house, doing close-quarter tactics type thing. We train a lot with a whole bunch of different kind of weapon systems. Our insert capabilities like airborne, which is like the World War II movies you see where they jump out of the plane.
Yeah, the parachuters.
The paratroopers.
Yeah, paratroopers.
So I did that. And then you could also go to free fall, which is another insert capability, which I got. So that's like the military skydiving.
Mm-hmm.
There's the combatant diver is another inserting method. I never went to dive school, thankfully.
Yeah.
Kind of impartial to it. Maybe if I was a diver, I'd be like, yeah, this is sweet.
Right.
Nerd, you're not a diver. But
yeah,
I'm not a diver, so I'm kind of glad I didn't go. And then, dude, there's a whole bunch of other stuff. I got the opportunity to go to sniper school.
That's badass.
So I graduated sniper school last year.
Holy shit.
Yeah, dude. And it just, there's so many, just countless opportunities of what you could do. And I don't know, dude. There's so much that I could say about it. And I could explain all these different missions, but it would take a long time.
Oh, yeah. That's, I mean, it's just so starkly different from your average person's day to day.
Oh, yeah.
Like, and it's so wild to me that they could just, as long as they're within age, like just decide that they want their life to be so fucking like completely opposite. And in my opinion, like extremely exciting and challenging if they just one day were like, yeah, I'm just going to sign a paper and now I'm going to be like camoed up and fucking or going to sniper school or doing dive training. Or
some people have no idea, but they go, yeah, sure, let's do it.
Right. Dude, yeah, I can't even imagine. With some of your sniper training, like how much of the stereotype of like you're not allowed to like you have to like piss yourself or like piss in a bottle or whatever, like how much of that actually is real?
It's real.
Yeah. Oh
I did do that before.
Yeah. Holy shit.
So before you go to sniper school, you have to do a pre-sniper to like, get a lot of the training. Yeah. Wean out what other people. And then I did usually the pre-sniper is like an actual no shit. Like, how do I say this in non-military terms? Like a base-wide school that is very planned out. You have to put in for the seat, get approved through your chain of command, go there. It's usually like 3 weeks long. But last year, in about this time actually, we went to Barbados. Because I'm a reserve, so every year you have to do your 2 weeks of annual training.
Right.
So we did our annual training in Barbados. And while we were there, like day 2, they're like, hey, we got to send some guys to sniper school later this year or next year. So in order to do that, we have to do a pre-sniper. We think we can just run a pre-sniper while we're here. They're like, does anybody want to go to sniper school? And I raised my hand. Fuck yeah.
Yeah.
There was only 3 of us.
Mm-hmm.
So we did our pre-sniper in Barbados. And then the big thing that they hound on, and it's a big portion of it in actual sniper school, but it was in my pre-sniper schools, the main focus was stalking. So essentially they set you out, let's say like 1,000 meters out, right? Mm. And then you have to get from where they drop you off at, let's say, and they'll give you like, okay, this stock, you have to take your shot within 400 meters. Mm-hmm. So you have to stock up from that 1,000 meters all the way to 400 meters out, undetected, unseen. And the instructors are at the place where you have to shoot at, and they have scopes. They're looking for you, and they know exactly where you're going to come from. And they're snipers themselves, so they're trained. They like, if I was this guy, I'd be going this way.
Right.
So they're going to be, hounding that area. And then you have to be able to get within that distance, set up your shooting position, have positive ID on, whatever you're shooting at. And it's wild because that's what you're saying, like you have to piss yourself or whatever. In Barbados, it was so fucking hot, dude.
Yeah.
So hot. It was like probably like 90, 95 degrees with like very high humidity. So it felt like it was 120.
God. You're just
so
wet.
I'm just pounding water. And then during the stock, and these things can last up to like fucking 4, 5, 6 hours just to get a couple hundred meters.
Yeah.
So sometimes you have to piss. You can't just stand up.
Right.
Call a timeout. So you just got to stay where you're at.
Mr. Enemy.
Yeah. So you just got to stay where you're at. Go pee-pee a little bit, let loose, and then carry on, dude.
Yeah. That's so nuts.
Yeah.
It's one of those situations where it's like people don't think about it, but then if you're in the moment, you're like, yeah, no shit, I'm just gonna piss. Like, I'm just gonna go and keep moving forward with the mission.
Yeah,
dude. What? So how much of it do you think? Like, I know that with sniper like stakeouts and stuff, you can spend so much time on like one particular target.
Yeah.
Is so much of that waiting for the right opportunity to be able to take your shot, or is it the whole setup leading up to it?
Say that again.
Because these like one of these particular, and I won't be able to use the like proper military jargon.
You're
good. But like one of these missions can take so many hours.
Yeah.
And like how much of that is like waiting for you to line up the shot, like you've already set up
and
you're looking down the scope versus like just getting to be able to even get there.
Yeah, so it kind of depends on like, again, if we're doing a stock or like where somebody's actively looking for you versus an enemy who has no idea you're there in the first place. So in that point, like, yeah, you would want to be stealthy, but you could probably get away with being a little more unstealthy, standing up,
right? Just
booking it to where you need to be, so that way you're set up. Because a lot of these are going to be targets of opportunity. There's not like a specific time this target's going to come by.
Yeah.
So you just gotta get there quick, set up, and then
wait.
there's you wait, and there's a lot that goes into it too. Like, just part of the setup process is like finding a good shooting position, whether it's standing, kneeling, low kneeling, sitting, prone.
Yeah.
You're going to have to, completely camouflage up, which takes a long time. You have to camouflage your gun, your tripod, everything. You have to get your distance. And like in some of those real world missions, you're not going to know, okay, this target's going to be at 400 meters away.
Right.
He might be at 400, but then again, maybe he walks the other way. He's going to be 700 meters.
Yeah. Holy shit.
So you got to find out your dopes, which is just so it's called your data on previous engagement. So with your gun, how fast it shoots, the muzzle velocity, all this stuff, you can kind of gauge out, what those dials on like a sniper scope, your wind and your elevation, you have to be able to dial those out. So when a target comes, you just know the distance.
Right.
And that way you can quickly engage it from there versus kind of guessing to it. There's a lot that goes into it. And then some of those stocks, like I told you, like getting from where you're dropped off at to the setup, that could take 5-6 hours. And again, it's like from here, like, let's say from me to that house right there.
Mhm.
What's that, like 120 feet,
Mhm.
150 feet? Just that distance alone could take me like 2 hours. Because there's sometimes where, like, again, the instructors are looking for you. And the veg out in the lane is only 3 feet high, so you have to stay lower than that. So you're completely exposed, and sometimes you have to do what's called skull dragging. You literally are completely prone. You put your face down in the dirt, and you just crawl like an inch at a time, very slowly, very slowly. And it's so tiring. And then you like look up after 20 minutes, and you're like 3 feet from where you started. You're like, God damn it. And you keep going. And that's what makes it really shitty, because some guys will get complacent.
Yeah, and they'll
like,
start
fuck, this
going
is tired.
too quick.
Yeah, and they'll try to go quit. Like, you know, I can get away with a bear crawl. And as soon as they even, you know, they're not even bear crawling. As soon as they move their arm, the instructors see that and they freeze you. And then they'll have somebody out with a stick and they'll come and find you.
Wow.
So there's a lot that goes into it, but honestly, like, there's no like set how much time it takes to get to the setup,
Right.
or how much time it takes to set up and what you're doing after. It's just like,
it's case per case.
yeah, case by case.
Yeah. When you hear like the stories about the guys who have like those like record shattering like distances for
Yeah.
like confirmed kills,
Mm-hmm.
what's your perspective on that? Do you think like, oh, this guy's a fucking legend, or he got like lucky as fuck?
Oh, a lot of it is luck. Dude.
Yeah, I believe it.
A lot of it is skill, but when you go out, like, fucking, like, again in American Sniper, you've seen that?
Yeah, yeah.
So at the very end, he kills this Mustafa dude,
Mm-hmm.
and he shoots, and one of the guys like, that's over a mile long, right?
Yeah.
And he shoots, completely nails him, headshot through the glass of his own gun.
Right. Yeah.
And like, that's like, okay. As a civilian, when I watched it, I was like, dude, that is fucking sick.
Hell yeah, Bradley Cooper.
Yeah, but now that I know about it, I'm like, okay, that was a little bullshit.
Yeah,
because
dramatization.
there's a lot that goes into it and a lot of shit that you can't even see. There's so much ballistic data, environmental data, a whole bunch of stuff that goes into a sniper shot. Like, some of these shots that we're taking in the schoolhouse that are like, let's say 1,100 meters out, that's pretty far, dude.
Yeah.
When you're looking at it through your glass, which is magnified, you're like, you can tell it's pretty far. And when you look at it naked eye, it's really far.
Yeah.
And you kind of have to make your best educated guess on what the wind is doing.
Yeah.
Because, like, we have these little thing called kestrels. It's like a little weather station. So I can see what the wind is doing where I'm at.
You're at, right, yeah.
But who's to say 200 meters out, the wind doesn't completely flip, which it does.
Holy shit.
Sometimes you can see, like, if it's really hot and there's pavement, you'll see, like, the heat waves, the mirage coming up, and it'll blow in the wind. So at your location, you're like, oh, it's blowing 2 miles an hour left to right. And then you see it 300 meters out, and you're like, okay, that looks like it's blowing probably like 7 miles an hour right to left. And then you got to keep doing that out and out and out. So if you get like a completely perfect wind call, completely perfect elevation, completely perfect shot, you break dead center on this guy.
Mm-hmm.
At 1,100 meters, there's like a 9-inch margin of error where if everything is perfect, that bullet could hit anywhere within 9 inches of where you're aiming.
Yeah, it could still graze his arm.
Yeah, and that's perfect.
That's crazy.
So when these guys are like, and I've seen videos. Sorry, excuse me.
Here's water if you want some.
Oh, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen videos of guys doing it, and they're taking shots at like 1,600 meters, 1,700 meters, and like, yeah, it takes a lot of fucking skill just to even get close to that.
Right.
But there's some luck that goes into it too.
Then it's just like like you hope, like, sure, I can get it within this circle,
Mhm.
but everything from there is like just crossing your fingers.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot that goes into it too. Even just like your body position while you're shooting.
Right.
So you want to be like dead center if you're prone.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're like slightly canted and your body positioning is a little off, you might be like seeing through your scope, okay, I'm dead center. But that's because you're canted a little bit. So if you actually look over straight, the reticle is pointing at like his shoulder. So that could, if you're actually aiming at his shoulder, then that 9-inch circle is going to miss him, you know?
Yeah.
And then that's just prone. Like sometimes we'll do these shooting positions on a tripod or resting our gun on like a post or something, and it's standing, and now there's like a lot more that goes into the manipulation of the gun because you're using your muscles to support the gun. So now when you look, every time you breathe, it moves. Your heartbeat will literally move.
I was gonna say, you try to aim like for to pull the trigger in between heartbeats, right? Or does that matter not as much?
Yes and no. Like when you're prone, sometimes I won't even feel my heartbeat. But if I'm in like some weird position, like the sitting position where I'm completely stuck in a ball,
like hunched over,
then like my stomach is crunched together, and now I'll legit feel my heartbeat. And you can just sit here and watch, and your heartbeat will move your leg a little bit if you're like being completely still. Which that little heartbeat, and like real good sniper, you know your heartbeats, and you would shoot in between that. But I mean, that's way into the weeds, dude.
Yeah, that's advanced shit.
Yeah, super advanced stuff. Usually try to shoot between breaths for sure, but
yeah, that makes sense. Just fucking like mid inhale.
Yeah, dude.
And then with the amount of just like, I don't know, again, lack of military jargon, but like skydiving that you've had to do. Like, how many times do you know how many times you've had to jump?
Yeah, I've got a logbook. I'm at like 100, including my civilian jumps. I'm at like 130-ish. But just military, I think I'm just over 100, like 105.
You've jumped that many times?
Yeah.
Non-military?
Yeah, and non-military, because there'd be times where like, especially when you freshly graduate the course and it's the sickest thing ever, you're still on that high of skydiving. My friends are like, hey, let's go to San Diego this weekend. We'll jump. And you jump 4 or 5 times a day, and then you do it the next day. It's fun, dude. It's expensive, but it's
that's what I was
fun.
thinking. Because I've gone skydiving once.
Yeah.
And I went in Hawaii.
Because Hawaii's a great place to jump, dude.
Dude, I was like, where else? Like, we're here. Because it was me and you know Dalton, I think, right?
Yeah, I've met him.
Yeah. It was me and him. And we were out there with some friends. And we were like, all right, if we go to Hawaii, like, we got to skydive. Like, we'll do it. We'll cross off the bucket list or whatever. And so we ended up going and we ended up jumping. And it was phenomenal, like super sick.
It's a great experience, right?
Yeah, absolutely. But the thing that I came out of it, one of the things I came out of it from, which was like the most mind-blowing to me, was how not a big deal it is.
Yeah.
Like, I'm over here, we're driving, we're like silent car ride, like fucking nervous as shit. And
the dude you're strapped to's got like 4,000 jumps.
Does not care.
Yeah,
that's
does
his job. Not care. Yeah, 100%. He's like talking. We're like strapping up. Like, I'm shaking, grabbing all of my stuff. And this dude who I'm gonna be strapped up to is talking to the dude that Dalton's gonna be strapped up to. And he's like, "How many more jumps you got before lunch?" And he's like, "I don't know, like 4."
Yeah.
What do you want to eat? Like, and I'm like, can you guys not, like, this is a big moment for me right now.
Yeah, dude.
I'm busy being a bitch over here. Like,
sometimes in the bird, it gets to a point where like when I was in the schoolhouse and we're in the plane right up, dude, my heart is racing because I never got to jump strapped to somebody. I was only just kicked out. Like,
your first jump was alone?
Yeah, just alone.
Oh,
there's instructors that jump out and they'll fly like kind of near you because they have to see that you're doing all the stuff that they taught you.
Right.
But you're just a little baby bird, dude, just getting pushed out. So I'd be like completely dead silent in the plane ride, just super nervous, thinking of everything that could go wrong.
Right.
And then after a while, it gets to a point where now that I have a good amount of jumps, like in the plane ride, I'm like with my friends, like
hanging
around, and then try to play some music, take pictures.
Yeah. Oh, I hate a commute.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, another thing that like it just was something that I never thought about was like I had to pop my ears on the way down.
Yeah.
Like I never considered that.
I have to pop my ears multiple times.
Yeah.
Every single time.
I was plugging my nose and like blowing and just like constantly acclimating.
Yeah.
And it made perfect sense in the moment, but I never would have guessed that was like a part of the process.
My wife, I took her.
Oh, really?
And she didn't clear properly.
Oh, no.
And so her ears were like hurting for like 3 days. And she's like, I hated it. I never want to skydive again. I'm like, oh, come on.
Yeah. Did she ever go again or no?
No, she hasn't gone again. No. I took her. I took my brother and his now wife, Amy. You've met her, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we took them all in the same day. And my wife, she said it was like a great experience, but afterwards her ears were just hurting.
Yeah.
Like, man, that took the fun out of it.
Yeah.
Because I've asked her to go multiple times after that. And she's like, I don't want to.
Yeah.
I'll go with you, but I'm not going to jump.
I'll watch you hurdle through the sky.
Yeah. All right.
Dude, yeah. And I also like. I think probably this was because it was tandem, but the straps that they had around like my thighs, I ended up like losing circulation to my legs.
I do that too.
And I was like, I literally told him, I was like, my whole legs are pins and needles right now.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes, oh, for sure. And he sticks his feet underneath my feet, and he's like, just stand up on my feet.
Yeah, take some weight off your groin.
Yeah. And I was like, I can do that. And he's like, yeah. And I'm like standing while we're parachuting down, and I'm just like, what the fuck am I doing right now? Such a trip, but
it's a wild thing, right?
Yeah, but to him, like, not a big deal.
We'll do because those guys, they'll have like, just to be an instructor there, dude, especially being able to jump tandem, those guys have to have, I'm talking thousands of jumps every day for like 5 years straight. They're jumping 10 times a day.
They were all old heads.
Yeah,
so like
old guys. Yeah.
That makes sense.
My instructor at the course, because it's a recon schoolhouse,
Mm-hmm.
and so you go there and like a bunch of contractors are there, like a bunch of old MARSOC dudes, some old recon dudes, and then my instructor was this guy named JR. He's like this white soccer dad looking dude. He's just been,
hey there, neighbor.
Yeah, exactly. That's literally how he was, and he's just been jumping since he was like 17. That he just got into it, and now he's like fucking 50. So he's got like 10,000 jumps.
Oh my
God. He's so sick in the air though. But then when you see him, he's like a little soccer dad.
Yeah, like a goober.
Yeah, dude, I love him. But what you were saying about the losing feeling in your feet, we do what's called hey-ho missions,
mm-hmm.
which is high altitude, high opening.
Mm.
So we'll have to get full combat equipment with a ruck, with your oxygen, with your rifle, with your comm equipment, everything. And then you jump out, say at like the highest I think I've jumped was like 18,000.
Fuck.
And then you open up at like 15,000.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're flying fucking, I think the furthest I've gone was like 50 kilometers. And you're just
Holy
flying,
shit, dude.
You're just flying in the air under your parachute for like 30 minutes. And after like 5 minutes, your legs just go out, dude.
Yeah.
And I can't like move my legs because my ruck that I jump is in front of you. And like you can't move your legs, so you kind of just have to eat it, dude. And it sucks. And sometimes
how do you land? Like you just fold on the ground?
Yeah, it's at that point my body just wakes up. But like even when I'm done, there was one time. So last month we were in Texas doing jumps, and on one of them my legs were just dead. I landed, stood up the landing, and then like as I'm taking off my straps and my rucks and shit, I fell. I literally fell because my legs were just done.
Yeah.
But I guess I had like the adrenaline rush at the right time to stick the landing.
Yeah.
And then a couple seconds later, I was like, oh my gosh, dude. And then my legs were just asleep. And I sat there for like 3 minutes. Like I couldn't feel my legs. I was like, okay, here they come.
Yeah.
So I feel you.
Zero
dude.
blood
Sucks.
circulation.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah, that was like, I remember because the one time I had gone, it was like, yeah, you're basically gonna free fall for a minute and then glide for 5. Mm-hmm. And so like whatever you think skydiving is, like I feel like most people think it's the reverse, where it's like, oh yeah, you free fall, and then like last second you pull the chute. And then you,
last second, 10 feet off the air.
Yeah. And in reality, it was like, yeah, like 20% of it was actually the free fall, and the rest of it was like this beautiful view of wherever you're at.
Yeah, it goes from like this death metal music, and then you open it up, it's all nature.
Yeah.
Oh wow, dude, this is sick.
Yeah, it was awesome. I'm sure San Diego is probably a great place.
San Diego's sick, but it's like more inland. So like on a clear day, which let's be honest, they're usually clear days,
mm-hmm.
you can see the ocean perfectly. It's
right.
a beautiful view, but you're jumping over the Otay lakes. So right below you are these like 3 lakes. It's stupid to look at, but the ocean is right there. But I've done, I think, 4 jumps in Hawaii now.
Nice.
And that shit is beautiful,
dude.
And the weather is crazy because when we'll open up, I haven't done a hey-ho there. We've only done hey-low, so low opening around like 4,000 or 5,000.
Oh, wow. So is that like immediate shoot?
What's that?
Is that like you immediately pull your chute when you do something that low?
No, so that's the hey-ho, you immediately open up.
Oh, okay.
You jump out and you pull your chute.
Uh-huh.
The hey-low is you're free falling for like that minute or so.
Oh, okay.
And then you open up at like 4,000 because you're still jumping at like the same height.
Oh, that's what I didn't know. I thought you were jumping at like 3,000. I was like,
oh,
you gotta
no.
Pull and shoot
so
immediately.
the airborne, which is a static line jumping, those you jump low as fuck.
Really?
You jump at like 1,200 feet.
Oh my God.
And you don't pull your chute. It's called static line because your chute is like hooked up to this little cable.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're in the aircraft, you hook that cable up to another cable that's in the aircraft. So when you jump out, your body weight just pulls your chute open, hopefully. And then you just fucking fly out and you're falling for like 30 seconds. So there's like no room for bad things to go on.
Yeah.
I've had to pull my reserve on those. My very first ever jump, I fucking snapped my ankle.
Really?
Completely broke it, yeah.
Holy fuck.
Static line jumping is not fun.
Yeah, that sounds terrifying.
You can't control the chutes. They're big, and you can't land. Can't, like, stand up and land. Mm-hmm. So, like, most of the airborne course, they teach you this thing called a PLF, parachute landing fall. And they basically just teach you how to eat shit, but not die, not break
where you, like, kind of do the whole, like, parkour roll shit.
Yeah. That's exactly what you do, and it hurts.
Oh my God,
it's not fun, dude.
But there has to be like very specific instances where like that's necessary.
Yeah, because it's like the whole idea with that is like a mass insert of troops. So like on D-Day, when they're dropping like fucking thousands of people, that's when it's like that's the whole reason they do it. Versus like the free fall, we're only jumping like my 6-man team.
Yeah.
To like insert into a mission and then go from there and start our mission.
Yeah, that makes sense. And at that point you're again like trying to be completely undetected, whereas thousands of people in the air is
it's hard to miss. Dude.
Yeah. Okay. I think I'll pivot it then a little bit because I do want to know how do you want another beer? I can.
Yeah, I would love one, please.
Perfect. We'll use that as a pause.
Easy day.
Your own cup of water as well.
Yeah, please, dude.
Absolutely. I totally. Oh, you're good. Wind, and that's about it. It's like a little loud and a little cold, but like that's about as far as that goes. Oh, here, I'll take the empty one and put it on my.
Thank you. Try not to spill any of this shit. Perfect. All right. I'm gonna re-up on a Zen, but keep talking. You need one?
No, I'm good. Is there anything else you think is a fun like point of note in like the military aspect before we like hop into the firefighter stuff?
I don't know. It's kind of there's a bunch of things that I think are like fun notes, but maybe they're not fun notes to others.
Right.
And there's a ton of things where like some people might be interested. Like, dude, you deployed. What was that like? And then I'm like, it sucked. I don't want to talk about it.
It's ass.
Yeah. So we could shift. I'm sure it'll come back in some conversation.
Yeah.
And also, you want to tell me I'll tell you the story of the Tiger's balls. Remember that video I sent you?
Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
dude.
yeah, let's do that, and then we'll get into the firefighter shit after.
Right. Dude, we had it was like the back end of our deployment. This was I think like January of 2019, because I think I got back in like February or January of 2019. So it was like very end of our deployment, right when we're like sailing back towards the States, and we stopped for Libo Port, which is just Liberty. In the military, it's stupid. Like, if you get free time, they call it Liberty. Yeah, per the book, there's this whole like formation. You're in your your dress uniform. They do this little sound, this whole military, thing just to grant these guys like free time.
Yeah.
To actually just have like a free American life. Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, so we get on a Liberty port and it's in Thailand, in Phuket, which I guess is like the Las Vegas of Thailand or whatever. And
God.
everything that you've seen in movies or heard about Thailand, it's all true, dude. It's exactly what you think it would be like. And we go to Thailand, and it's just crazy. And then, like, I think it was like day 3 or 4 that we were there, because I think we were there for 4 days. We wanted to go see the elephants, and there's a tiger sanctuary out there, where the tiger sanctuary, essentially, they give these tigers, like, it looks like a little sugar cube. But it's like fucking drugs.
They like sedate them?
Yeah, sedate them heavily to make them all docile and chill out. So you can go in there, you can pet the tigers. And one of them was just completely zoinked out. And my buddy was like, his little tiger nuts were popping out the back. My buddy was like, eeny, meeny, miny, mo, catch a tiger by his nuts. We were like, dude, how funny it would be if we go up and touch his nuts. And then they were like, it was like a dare, like, you won't do it, do it. So I was like, I'll do it, dude. You guys underestimate.
I'll grab the tiger by the balls.
Got my video camera out. I went up and I scooped his little nutsack. It's funny because he flinched a little bit too. But the tiger's completely zoinked out. There's this big male. He's fucking huge, dude. He wasn't drugged up, so he was like in his own little cage. Dude, he was growling, hissing. He's like pacing back and forth, and I'm like from here to the wall away from him, and I'm just looking at him, and dude, he wants to fucking eat me. You're like, these things are terrifying.
Yeah.
He was a big boy.
Yeah. I went to a zoo. It might have been in San Francisco, I think. I can't remember exactly where, but they were feeding them, and like the feed opening in the enclosure is at the top of the glass. And so they make these things stand up on their hind legs. And I'm like, oh, this thing's like 8 feet tall.
They're
like,
big, dude.
I'm looking up at it. And I'm like, what the fuck? You don't think about that shit because it's a quadruped. It's walking on all fours all the time.
Still, even quadrupeds, and it's like, what, like 3.5, 4 feet tall? You're like, that's pretty big, dude.
Yeah. So I can fucking imagine. That's I know. I remember opening Snapchat and I was like, is that a tiger? Is that a tiger? Is that his nuts? Is that his hand?
It was a great time, dude.
Hell yeah. I love that. That's fantastic.
There's a bunch of other wild shit. We saw the elephants in Thailand. Another one, we're walking on this street, which is like the Las Vegas Strip, like I said. It's this big-ass street.
Ladyboy Central?
Ladyboy Central, dude. Bars everywhere. Strip clubs everywhere. Fucking... just like all these people trying to sell you shit. And we're walking. And, dude, there's like hundreds of Marines and sailors on the street. Thousands of these, Thai people. And this little boy comes up to me. He's like 6 years old, maybe. He's like a little kid. But he speaks like pretty good English. He's like, sir, he's like, let me be a helper for today. He's like, whatever. I think they do baht. I think that's their currency.
Okay.
Instead of dollars, it's baht. He's like, 50 baht, I'll do, I'll get you beers, I'll get you food, whatever.
Like your little personal assistant.
Yeah, and I was like, just go away, dude. Like, I don't want you. And we're still walking, and he's badgering me for like 10 minutes. Finally, I see this dude, this infantry grunt, this kid that's on the deployment with me. And I was like pretty cool with him, but I didn't really know him because the gym hours on the boat are like just... There's a slot for like Marine hours. Yeah. So all the Marines go up there. And so I see him all the time in the gym. We say, what's up? We live together. But I saw him walking with his group of friends. And I was like, okay, kid. I was like, I'm going to give you $50 American right now. I was like, I'm going to give you this. You do one thing for me. You go away. I don't want to see you again. He's like, okay. I was like, you see that white boy right there? He's got like an orange shirt. He's like, yeah. He was like, I was like, I want you to go knock his beer out of his hand and then run away. Don't let him catch you.
Don't let him catch you.
Yeah, he's like, okay. He runs up and we're like, there's hundreds of people on the street. So like, he doesn't see us. We're like watching and this kid just free for all it, dude. punched him in the nuts, smacked his beer out of his hand, grabbed his hat and threw it on the floor, and this little kid ran off. And we're watching, and this dude is all pissed off. He doesn't know what the fuck just happened to him. And he runs off, dude.
You gave him his own little recon mission.
Yeah, dude. Thailand was wild, dude. There's so much stuff over there, but I want to go back.
Yeah.
I think on this next deployment we're going to go over there.
Hopefully. Hell yeah. That's fucking awesome. It's so cool that you can implement so much of that stuff into like what technically is just your job.
Yeah.
Like what a fucking trip, man. Okay. Let's see. I'll just hard pivot it. Like,
do it.
How was the Palisades, man?
Palisades was wild, dude.
Like, holy shit.
I remember the day it happened,
Mm-hmm.
like from start to finish. Because I wake up, that's the bad thing. So I live in Oceanside right now, not Palmdale.
Mm-hmm.
And my station is in Mar Vista, which is like Venice Beach area.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a couple miles away from the beach, Venice Beach. And so my drive is generally like an hour and a half in the mornings. And I have to be there by 6:30. I usually like to get there at like 6 so I can go to the bathroom, shave, get a coffee.
Oh, you're waking up at like 4 a.m. or earlier.
I wake up at like 3:30, do my morning routine, then I leave my house by 4.
Mm-hmm.
So I can get there around 5:30ish, and then if there's traffic, I'll still be there early. And I remember I get on the 5 freeway and I'm heading north, and right when I get into like San Clemente, I got a weather notice on my phone. It was like high wind warning.
Mm-hmm.
For Los Angeles area, and it was like gonna be up to like 30-40 mile an hour winds.
Mm-hmm.
And in the fire service, winds are like play a huge deal.
Yeah,
there's this red flag wind warning which we get which is 25 mile an hour or higher winds. And so in my head, as I got that weather notice, I was like, if there's gonna be a big wildland fire, I was like, today's the day.
Yeah,
because of this. And before that, like the week prior to that, and this is beginning of January. So like the week prior to that, when I'm at work, I actually got pre-deployed, like just in case a big wildfire happened. It was an overtime day. And we ended up staying at this station we were pre-deployed to all day, and nothing happened, which was sick because we weren't running regular fire and EMS calls.
Right.
We were just there at the station. So I got
the backup.
Yeah. So I got, a good workout,
Yeah.
chilled in the sauna. We went out in town. We got food.
Mm-hmm.
We're just hanging out on the station. Meanwhile, I'm getting paid.
Hell yeah.
And then that day when I'm going to work, I was like, today's the day if it's going to happen. But I wasn't going to get pre-deployed that day because it was just my regular shift.
Mm-hmm.
So we're at the station, and then we're doing our regular thing. Somebody's like cooking lunch. And then I think at like 10 a.m., I happened to be on the rescue that day because there's 3 firemen on my shift, and there's only 3 firemen seats that we can sit on, which is 1 seat on the engine, the fire engine, and then 2 seats as the EMTs on the ambulance. So we switch out.
Mm-hmm.
And so the day prior, or the shift prior, was my engine day. So the next day I was on the rescue. And so the engine, they got dispatched to this fire at like 10 a.m. They were just gone. And then me and my partner who were on the rescue, we were just running our normal calls. And we were on our way back from St. John's Hospital. We just dropped off a patient at St. John's, which is in near Venice. I'm spacing. I'm sorry.
Monica?
Santa Monica. There we go. I'm spacing, dude.
You're good.
So we're heading back from there. We get fuel at another station, and as we're getting fuel, we get dispatched to this fire.
Mm.
We're like, oh, fuck. Like, typically on the ambulance, you don't put your wildland gear on there. If I'm riding on the engine, I always put my wildland gear on there because it's a possibility. So we go back to the station, we get all our wildland gear, and we head up there. And just driving up there, we were driving up the PCH, and I'm driving emergency. I was driving that day, and I love driving emergency.
Yeah,
it's so
just
fun.
mobbing.
Yeah, so we're running down. The whole PCH is just closed, police escorts. I'm driving up there, and you could see this huge plume of smoke, dude. Huge. And I was like, oh, fuck. Like, this is real. This is a real deal.
Yeah.
So we get up there, and they set up on the PCH this big staging area for LAFD. And there were tons of resources there, tons of like headquarters and support personnel and all these chiefs and captains and a whole bunch of people, right? And so we staged, and we were sitting there for about like an hour, 2 hours, and there was 3 rescues there, my rescue and 2 others. And then finally we got tasked out, and this chief comes up. He's like, all right, this is what you guys are going to do. You guys don't have water or hoses because you're just rescue, so we're going to have you guys basically do like tiny bit of search and rescue, mainly escorting, like people who are stuck in there.
Yeah.
You guys are going to like, we have confirmed addresses from family members who like before their fire broke out, they went to work and they left their fucking grandma.
Right.
Or they left their dogs, or they left their kids, whatever. So they're like, they gave us like a huge list of addresses. And then we go up into the neighborhood, which was in the Pacific Palisades. And during the day, the first trip we went up there, dude, it was huge. And I have a ton of videos on my phone. Fires everywhere. Like on a regular structure fire that we get called out to for like a house that's on fire, there's a lot of units that showed up. It's a big deal because it's like a full structure.
Yeah.
When we go up there, dude, there are hundreds of houses and businesses. Like the street that we went up to, there's like fucking 70 cars all in a row, all on fire, going off like a bomb. And I was like, dude, like it was surreal being in there. And we're by ourselves, just the 2 of us, and we're driving through all this fire. We go knock on some doors, and there's some people there. We get them out, and then we come back to the chief. Hey, chief, we checked all these addresses. You got more for us? Yep, sure. We go back in there, and there's this one dude who's like, son, I've been in this house for 40 years. You're not going to tell me when I have to leave my house? And I'm like, sir, like your house is going to burn down. And he's fighting with us, finally fighting with us, and I was getting angry.
Yeah.
So I was like, I told him, come here. I yelled at him. I was like, fucking come over here and look. And I pointed out his balcony, and the fire was legit like 600 meters away. Very close. And it was big. And then I told him, I was like, sir, like, I am not leaving here because you're going to die in this house. I was like, I will carry you out. You can sue me, whatever. But if I leave and you die, then like, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
And finally he was like, okay, I'll leave. And so we leave, and we just kept doing that all day and all night. And meanwhile, there's tons of like fire engines up there, like on structure protection, where there's like a whole street of houses on fire. So they can't fight all those fires. There's not enough water resources. So they have to pick one that's like the least on fire.
Yeah.
And they just protect that.
Yeah. Jeez, it's just damage control.
Damage control, yeah. And we're just bobbing and weaving through all these fire companies and all these fires. And while we're like driving through, I'm driving I give my buddy my phone, my buddy Mike, and he's filming. And dude, it's crazy because like it's legitimate, like
Armageddon.
Yeah. And I don't know if you saw like the after pictures of the neighborhood, like on social media.
I've seen like aerial photos.
Aerial,
of just,
that's
like,
what I'm talking about.
It looks like
an entire
neighborhood. Like it got bombed. Like,
yeah,
like
this size of a neighborhood.
Yeah.
Every single structure just burnt to the ground. So the night prior, just being in that, and like you're like 20 feet from this house that's on fire. Next 20 feet, there's another house on fire. It was wild, dude. And then when it got dark, there's so much smoke. It's so windy. You can't see like where I'm driving. There's points where like I have to drive like through in between 2 cars that are on fire. And so like I try my best to keep my distance, but like this is the only street leading to that house where there might be a person trapped. So I have to bob and weave in between these cars, and like the flames are touching my rescue. And at the same time, I can't see because there's so much smoke coming off of it, and it's dark that like I can barely see like 10 feet in front of my vehicle.
You might just run into something.
So I might run into something, then we get stuck. So I have to go like slow, and at the same time you feel
you're getting
heat.
cooked.
Yeah. And it was just wild, dude. There were some times where I was like, I don't know if I should like make this move and go through this, or if we should just, for our own safety, just say that we tried, you know.
Right.
But there were some instances where I was like, fuck it, we ball, dude.
Yeah.
I just went through it, and then it was sketchy, but we made it through, you know.
Dude, I can't even imagine having to like make those like judgment calls like right then and there.
Yeah.
Where you're like this could be a person, and or it could be us. Like,
yeah, exactly. And it was getting a little trickier as the night progressed because all this fire and all this wind is like a bunch of power lines. We were like going through this one street. I think it was like La Tejera Canyon or something. It was like one of the main streets that we were getting to these deep neighborhoods. And then later on the night, like these giant high power tension lines fall and they block the road. So now we can't go through there. So now we have to find another way. And then there's more cars. It was just wild, dude. The whole thing, I could go on and on, but just actually being there was pretty crazy. It was like a career fire.
Yeah.
A lot of dudes are in for like 10, 20, 30 years without seeing something like that. And I just happened to get it. You know, I'm 2 years on the job now.
Yeah. And while you were here too, instead of like off doing whatever. What was your perspective on, because like everyone had their eyes on this fire, and so that means everyone has a fucking opinion on it. And I know that there was like a ton of talk and controversy and like politicizing the water reserves and all of that. Do you have like perspective on that that you feel like the average person doesn't because you were there for it and shit?
Yes and no. And see, this is one of the things I didn't think about when you asked me like touchy subjects earlier. I can't get like too crazy because, you know, while I do have my own opinions, I can't like speak on behalf of the fire department, especially criticize my superiors and all that. But I will say, last year in the summertime, my station went on a drill day, and drill days in the fire department, usually on the weekends, my entire department wide, weekend days, Saturdays and Sundays, those are drill days. So we like go out and we train on whatever. It's like a big training event. We try to stay there as long as we could. And so that particular drill day, we went up to the Santa Ynez Reservoir. I think that was a reservoir it was. I may be wrong though, so don't quote me. And it was that reservoir. Yeah. That was controversially empty. Yeah. And we went there and we were training with like the wildland helicopters and like practicing, you know, refilling the water on them, touch and goes. And it was a fun drill day. But I remember at that time, that giant fucking reservoir, which is like millions of gallons, was bone dry. Yeah. This was in the summer of last year, like towards the end of summer. I remember asking my captain, like, hey, sir, is that supposed to be empty right now? Like, summertime, I imagine it would be full in case there's a fire. And he's like, yeah, I'm sure there's something going on with it, whatever. We didn't think much about it. And then this fire happened, and a lot of the hydrants were running dry. Right. And a lot of that isn't just because the reservoir was empty. It was just because a lot of it also was because there were so many engines pulling from hydrants all around that street, and there's just so much water getting pumped out that eventually it just tapped out. It ran dry. Yeah, like, that makes sense. Yeah, and whether or not the reservoir was full, I'm fairly certain there still would have been plenty of water-related issues. Yeah, naturally. But the reservoir did run dry, and I remember that was like a big... And on top of that, we're like very understaffed as a department right now. Like by thousands of members and like tons of fire stations. We basically need to like double inside to be at the national standard that we're supposed to have. Yeah. Because there's this thing called the NFPA, which is like this standard that kind of governs like how firefighting is supposed to, our gear, our personnel, our staffing, our fire stations, this and that. And per that standard, you're supposed to have X amount of fire stations per, you know, however many people live in that district. And we're like half of that. Yeah, like not even cutting close. And on top of that, we can't even fill our current positions because we're so understaffed. What? And so why? there's like a huge workload, and that goes into not just like the wildland Palisades fire that happened, but just normal everyday calls. Like, yeah. I have a pretty decent rescue. It's pretty bipolar though, in the sense of like call volume, because some days, like on 4th of July last year, I worked on the rescue, and I thought that was going to be a day where we're just going to get blown up with calls. We didn't get our first call until like 4 p.m., which is unheard of. Really? versus some other days you get like 15, 16 calls during the daytime. You're not at the station. You can't shower. You have to like skip meals. You can't work out. You're just gone running calls all day. And then, by the way, you sleep at the station. You're on call. And so we'll get calls, like 7 calls throughout the nighttime. You don't get an ounce of sleep throughout the entire night. And it's like, dude, like.
And that's just a Tuesday.
That's just a Tuesday, yeah. And some of these stations, like I said, I got lucky because my station that I'm at, the rescue is fairly decent. But there's some, especially the ones in the city proper, that are just blown up. And I work overtime days at these stations, like Station 9's, which is, I think for a while now, it's been the busiest station in the entire country. Not just our department, but the entire country. And I've worked there on that rescue, and it's the entire station. They have a truck there, handful of engines. They have, multiple BLS rescues. They have ALS rescues, and just it's like almost every 20 seconds somebody's getting a call at all times throughout the entire day. Same with 10s and 1s and 4s and like all these stations around the city, and it's just bad. And especially in the valley too.
I can imagine.
The valley's really understaffed with rescues and all that. So some of those are pretty fucking frustrating to work on.
Do you feel like with Palisades, because it still seems like you guys are just at the whim of Mother Nature, and like it's gonna do what it's gonna do, and it's your ability to, or your job to just like make the best out of whatever the fuck is about to happen.
Yeah.
So do you feel like even if everything was perfect, like reservoir's perfect, your staffing was doubled, do you still think Palisades would have been like a fucking disaster?
I think so.
Yeah.
Maybe not
as bad, of
not
course.
as bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, but still, like a fire, and in some people's minds, like a single house that burned down is unacceptable. Versus, what actually happened in like hundreds of these structures burned down. But if everything went perfect, there still would have been a pretty devastating level of destruction, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And again, I've only been on the department 2 years, so maybe some guy who's much more experienced, some 20-year-old or some 20-year salty fireman would be like, "No, son, we would have snuffed it out. We would have stopped it before a single blade of grass got hurt or something." I don't know. So, but in my opinion, yes, like a fire that level.
With those winds and everything?
With those winds, dude, because there's some things you can't control.
Yeah, it's a force of nature.
Yeah, it's a force of nature. Like, there was one, I think, 2018 or 17, whenever it was. It was called the Camp Fire up in, I think, Butte County, way up in North California. And I think to the day, I don't know how the stats on the Palisades fire stack up to it, but I remember reading about it, and like it was like the most devastating wildland fire in, I want to say, at least California history, maybe North American history, but it was fucking huge.
Was that the one where that town Paradise completely burned down?
I think it might have been. There's a ton of wildfires, dude. So
yeah,
I'm not exactly sure, but that one was just so fucking big that all the resources in the world and FEMA were up there. They couldn't stop it, and it eventually got put out. Because the fire was so devastating that it like created its own weather pattern because of all the winds and the smoke going up in the atmosphere, that eventually like a storm came through, like a severe rainstorm, and put it out. It wasn't
God was like, enough.
Yeah. It wasn't people.
Yeah.
So I mean, sometimes like fires on that level, dude, like
you do what you can.
You can do a lot.
Yeah.
But it might not be enough.
Yeah, you can't do everything.
Exactly. So with that fire with the Palisades, yeah, I'm sure even if we were completely perfect, like there still would have been a pretty big level of destruction, and it still would have made the news headlines, and it still would have been a big deal in some other regard. People find shit to complain about for everything. So
of course, yeah, yeah, and they can fucking kick rocks. Like,
exactly.
Was there ever a conclusion on how it got started?
I'm sure there was. I've been gone for a while now. And I remember at the time they were like they were doing these investigations and
basically trying to see if it was like man-started.
Yeah, man-made. And a lot of these wildland fires, unfortunately, are man-made. And a lot of them are homeless issues.
Really?
Yeah, a lot of them. I've been on a ton of like pretty decently big fires, like on the side of the freeway, because these homeless encampments are there, and they start like a warming fire, and
it's uncontrolled,
or they're cooking, or they're just trying to warm up, and then they fuck off and they go do whatever, or they pass out because they're drunk or on drugs, or they just leave the fire unattended and it catches all the veg on fire. Like, dude, tons of these.
That's crazy.
And a lot of the fires, especially in the city, there's a ton of vacant structures where, you know, obviously if you were homeless too, you would break in,
find shelter. Yeah, find
shelter, and then they start these warming fires, and then it just catches this entire like commercial structure, like a Costco, on fire, which turns into like a huge deal. And a lot of it is man-made, especially in the wildland, I guess. But
it doesn't seem like a lot of it is like purposeful arsony.
No, and I fucking hope not, because if it was purposeful, that dude needs the death penalty.
100%.
Sure.
Yeah. It's just so weird where like most of the time the public just doesn't care about
until it happens to them.
Right. Yeah. Or until it's like the grand scale of like, oh, like one of the most expensive neighborhoods in this country are burning to the ground, and then it's all eyes on this, and everyone has an opinion. Everyone's telling you what they should have done different or why it like they fumbled it. And
exactly, dude.
And I'm like, I don't know, man. Like maybe you should just like you treat them like they're the experts for every other normal instance, every other normal fire. Like maybe this is the same thing. Like we can just kind of leave it up to them to be able to tell the public what the best case scenario was and why what happened. But I'll just never understand like the whole, I suddenly feel like knowledgeable enough to speak on this. Like, I don't know.
Those Facebook and Instagram warriors, dude. I'm right.
Yeah.
Sometimes reading those comments, like some of these people feel, what's the word I'm looking for? Like so empowered that their opinion needs to be heard.
Yeah.
They have to type on Facebook and they have to give their 2 cents. And people will fight in the comments and this, that, and the other. And sometimes I'm reading this like, dude, just shut the fuck up.
100%.
Like, you're from Delaware.
Yeah.
You have no idea what's going on over here, dude.
I know.
But it's like these old fucking salty dudes, these 50-year-old guys, or these, you know, soccer moms that are like, again, just feel so needed in the comments that they have to type out their comments, and like that's what they live for. They have nothing else going on in their lives. Oh man.
Yeah, I know. I think like it may be a little harsh, but I think one of the worst things to come out of the internet is that it gave everyone a voice.
Yeah. No, 100%, dude.
Like prior to these like social media platforms, if you wanted to be heard and taken seriously, you kind of had to earn it. Like you had to earn like having an educated opinion, being able to speak well, know what you're talking about, and be humble. And then like you would get like your own like space on a talk show, or maybe the news would interview you, or you'd like write an article that would get published. But like you had to work your way into a place where your opinion was regarded. And now it's like all you need is just to get lucky and go viral. Yeah. And you could have 5 million people listen to like the worst take in history.
Yeah, dude.
And
I imagine the Talk 2 I had some shit to say on the fire that went on. Who knows?
I think she was in the middle of hiding from her crypto scam at the time.
But like you said, I mean, too many people have a voice now, and too many people feel like, again, their opinion needs to be heard.
And is equally valid.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that goes on any subject, dude.
Yes.
And it's funny because I'll find these people, and I don't have TikTok, but I have, you know, Instagram and Facebook, and I'll go on comments and shit in there. And sometimes I'll just say something because I'll find this person who, again, is just, they feel like it needs to be said.
Right.
And I'll go on their podcast and I'll just completely debate them. Whether they're right or wrong, in my opinion, I'll just fight with them.
Yeah.
The opposite of whatever they're saying. And people get mad.
Oh, yeah. 100%.
One of the things I do as a joke, my buddy got me onto this, that my buddy that I deployed with, we go to the United States Marines official Instagram post.
Yeah.
And we'll just comment some shit like, Marines suck, Army is better, this and that. And dude, we'll just let it ride. And all these all these like kids who are like sworn in but not in boot camp yet,
Yeah.
or all these kids who are fresh boot camp, or some salty like Vietnam veteran or something will comment and just hate on us.
Take
dude.
it back, you dirty
Yeah,
traitor.
and it is one of my favorite things to do. And
That's
we'll
so
just
funny.
go in the comments and fight with these people. Have DM'd me. And I'm like, you need to fucking take this back, or we're gonna find you. We're gonna do this.
find
Yeah.
you.
It's bad, dude, but it's hilarious.
Oh,
All stemming from those people who think their opinion needs to be heard
yeah.
on whatever subject.
Yeah, yeah. I commented on a reel a few weeks ago, like probably a month ago at this point, and I'm still getting likes and responses on it. And it's because this guy posted this video, and he basically was like, if you meet a woman who makes you want to be a better version of yourself and supports everything that you do and is like pushing you towards what you need to be, just marry her. Like she's like the catch that you've been looking for, and like that's the type of woman that you'd want to spend the rest of your life with. And all these dudes in the comments were like, that's a fucking unicorn, bro. Like that doesn't exist, and blah blah blah. And so I commented on it, and I said,
you don't know what a bad day is, brother.
Yeah,
that kind of thing.
Yeah, and like, oh yeah, sure, like as if this person exists. And I commented on it, and I was like, there are a ton of women that are exactly this, and all the guys on here who are commenting saying that they're a unicorn are embarrassing themselves because they're admitting they've never met one. Like you've never talked to one. Like they don't spend their time with you. And oh my God, like the amount of people it pissed off. Like all the people liking it were all women, and they're like, yeah, that's me. And I'm like, probably not, but
probably not.
But I'm glad that you agree. But then there's so many dudes that are like, how is this helpful for the conversation? And I'm like, and I commented back, I was like, I'm not trying to change lives in an Instagram Reels comment section, dude. Like, fuck off.
There's this dude who I'm still getting likes to. This Marine dude, and I won't say his name or his Instagram or anything, but he's this, I think he's like a gunny, and I don't even know if he's still in, but he posts all this motivational shit and all this stuff about how you should be as a person, how you should be as a Marine. And then one day, and he posts quotes about like, he'll quote himself and put the quote in the post of like how you should be hard.
Yeah, he thinks he's David Goggins.
Yeah, exactly, dude. And then he posted a picture with that, and you could see his ribbons that he's wearing on his uniform. And like, I know a lot of people just see those ribbons and they're like, oh, sweet. But like,
yeah, valor.
Each one of those ribbons means like a certain thing. Right?
Some specific.
And there's specific ones you can see for deployments.
Right.
And this guy is like whatever rank, and he's been in for like 15 years, no deployments.
Whoa.
Never been to, and I'm not saying it's bad if your service, you haven't been to combat. Or,
but
your service is less than any, but this dude is like feeding in almost to like Andrew Tate levels of like, this is how you should be as a man. You should be hard. You should be this. No deployments. He's got like 4 ribbons.
Yeah.
And I commented like, wow, this dude with no deployments or any kind of real whatever, but he's telling you how to be hard.
Yeah.
And then that comment got like randomly like 400 likes. People have DM'd me, you don't know his service. Other people are like, yeah, who's this guy to tell me? Yeah, all this other. So it's funny. I just love trolling people on the internet, dude. It's one of my favorite things to do.
It's the best. It's the best like way that you can just not take it seriously and get some enjoyment out of the awful place that the internet's turned into. Yeah, I've had a couple like little comments like that. It's been fun. Like I never realized like the traction you could get on just like one little comment.
You don't even know if it's gonna be the one that blows up.
Yeah, I remember I I made a comment on one post because it was do you follow MLB? Like,
MLB,
yeah. So there was a reel that they posted of Paul Skeens doing a photo shoot, and he's like winding up and doing.
Oh, I've seen this one. Yeah,
and he's like throwing the ball and he's hitting the cameraman, and he's like giggling and he's smiling and everything. And I commented on it, and I was like, even Livy Dunn doesn't make this dude smile like this. And it got like 2,000 likes, and I was like, fuck, dude, she's gonna see it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna start a fight like in the relationship. Like, oh, is this true?
Some random on the internet just ruined their entire relationship.
Yeah, like ruined dinner at least. Like, It's so funny. It's such a fucking it's a place and a half for sure. But yeah, and then we'll like kind of pivot to the third thing I know that we wanted to talk to. But how do you balance your life? Like you said earlier, like you have 3 kids now at this point. Like you're
kids,
a family man,
marriage, the work.
Yeah.
It's tough, dude.
Mm-hmm.
And fuck, where do I even start? It sucks because like a lot of it is on me, and I know a lot of people have this same exact struggle. Mm-hmm. So I'm not going to sit here and try to say that my life is crazy hard when, you know, millions of other people have the same struggle. But it sucks when like a lot of it is riding on you. Mm-hmm. Like my wife doesn't work, but that's the thing that we talked about and we decided was best.
Right.
Because my wife is like a perfect mother, dude. She's so good with, and there's nobody in the world that I trust more with my kids than my wife. Mm-hmm. And we don't want her to go to work just to make a little bit extra money.
Right.
So we can pay for daycare for some random to raise our kids. And by the way, like she probably wouldn't enjoy that job.
Exactly. It's a lot more fulfilling, I'm sure, to spend time with your kids.
She's a fucking trooper, and she does a really good job handling kids. And being a stay-at-home mom, even sometimes when I watch my kids with my wife, like it's tough, dude.
Oh yeah, there aren't breaks. There's not lunches.
Yeah, dude, it's a tough job.
Yeah.
And I love my kids, but sometimes I'll come home from work and 30 minutes in, I'm like, oh my fucking, I need to get out of here, dude. So props to my wife and props to all single mothers, but like the balancing of like just like the whole financial thing rests on you.
Right.
And then also I try to be like a good dad. I try to like spend meaningful time with my kids, which is tough, especially when I come home from like a 72-hour shift at the fire station and I'm on like 6 hours of sleep that entire 3 days. I come home, I just want to sleep. I want to just sit on the couch and do nothing.
Yeah.
And then my wife's like, well, I've been home with the kids for 3 days and I want to go do this.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's like, it's tough to balance like what you need to do. And a lot of times I just err on the side of my wife because I appreciate her so much that like, you know what's being tired for another couple hours? I'll just take a nap when I get home. Let's go do what my wife wants to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then being gone a lot, I feel guilty.
I can imagine.
Not being with my kids and not helping my wife with my kids and trying to maintain a healthy marriage. Because my wife and I, we've gone through our ups and downs. We've gone through our fights and all this other stuff. But like staying with my wife is like very important with me or to me. So it's tough balancing all that. But it's like the way I balance it is I just pick the most important thing at that moment. Because there's been times where I've like completely brush off my wife or I completely brush off my kids because in my mind, you know, getting to sleep to go to work on time tomorrow morning is the most important thing. Right. And then later on when I wake up, I'm like, you know what, I could have done this. I could have balanced it better. And so I just try to choose the most important thing at that time. So if I get home from 3 days of work and I know my life's been tough, my wife will tell me, oh, our daughter had an accident or my son, you know, broke a fucking glass or, you know, did this or she had a tough time too. So she needs to decompress a little bit. And her decompression is a lot different than mine. She wants to go out to the beach or she wants to go get lunch or dinner or go shopping, whatever, this and that. And so I just try to choose it like, okay, this is really important to my wife right now. It's okay if I'm going to be tired for another couple hours. Let's go do it. Or if my son like tells me like, Daddy, I miss you. Like, are you going to be at work again tomorrow? Because I miss you and I wanted to go play catch. Yeah. Even though I'm so tired, I'm like, okay.
Like, fuck, this is what it's all about.
Yeah. This is like extremely important to him right now.
Yeah.
Let's go spend time with him.
Yeah.
And then when I'm at work, I don't know if this sounds fucked up, but I try to completely forget about my kids, my wife.
I think you have to.
My other job.
You have to really like compartmentalize.
Yes.
Like the two things. I do the same thing. Like I obviously don't have like wife and kids, but when I'm at work, like my home problems, if they start plaguing me at work, I'm fucked.
Then, yeah, and it feeds into it, and it's going to be a double-edged sword, and now you're fucked from both ends.
Yes.
Versus, like, compartmentalize. That was a great word to use. So when I'm at work, especially, like, there's a lot of dangerous things that go into my fire job and my military job. So, like,
you gotta be sharp.
If I'm focused on my, this argument I had with my wife, and then I, gaff something off at work, then it's going to come back to bite me.
Yeah.
So I try to completely, and my fire job has a million different responsibilities I got to worry about. My military job has a million different responsibilities. And then I get home, and now I still have those 2 responsibilities of work. Plus, I'm at home with my kids.
Yeah.
And I'm gone a lot because there's a lot of things like I have to do for those other 2 jobs.
Yeah, I mean, you're not doing a desk job, dude. You're not like exactly. 9 to 5, like, oh, I'll be home just in time for supper. Like, you have large obligations on all ends.
And I feel guilty, too, because, my wife will be texting me, like, we have my daughter's dance, and then we have my son's baseball, and then I also have a doctor's appointment because she just gave birth 3 months ago. So she's got follow-on appointments. The baby's got appointments. What time are you going to be off work? Because either, Mila is going to miss dance, or I'm going to have to miss my appointment. What time are you getting off work? And then I ask, and they're like, well, we still got this and this to do. Like, we'll probably get off.
People stop dying for you? Like,
we'll get out, like, my military right now. I'm, like, asking constantly, like, can we go home? Like, what are we doing? Because my chain of command, for some stupid reason, likes to just keep us all day, even if we don't do anything. We're just sitting there all day waiting for the next thing to happen. And I feel guilty because there's just so much going on in my mind that I get stressed out about it, and I feel guilty. So what you said, like the compartmentalization, like just focus on the thing at hand. What's the most important thing right now? Yeah,
because stressing yourself out at work over something that you have zero control over is just only going to make things worse. And I think, like, if you are capable of like focusing on work, giving it your all, and then fully shifting into parent husband mode, then like you don't have any bleed over, or the minimal if you try to. And I don't know, I think it's weird to frame it this way, but I really think that, like, the position that you and your family in is like a huge privilege, especially nowadays, where a lot of people are like have like less kids, or they have like both parents working, and so they're not even able to juggle this stuff, and then these kids don't have like a parent with them all the time, like they're at daycare, or they're with their grandparents, or whatever it is,
and you don't know what your kid is being exposed to.
Whether
it's other kids or other adults,
or content
is a big thing. My son is all into, it's crazy because it took him he's good at like tying his shoes now, but like he's 7, so when he was like, I think like 5 or something, I was like in the process of like, no more slip-on shoes, let's get on some tie shoes. It took him forever to learn how to tie his shoes, but you put that kid in front of like a computer screen, and he's like Tony Stark, dude. He can do anything. He can go into any settings and change whatever and all this other stuff. He's so into electronics, but at the same time, I catch him, like, he has a Nintendo Switch that I bought him for his birthday one year.
Nice.
Or for Christmas, maybe. And I'll catch him on YouTube. And he'll watch, like, Mr. Beast. He'll watch some random-ass shit about, how strong is this construction truck. But then other times you get on some of these like content creators, and there's weirdos on 100%. YouTube, and they're saying all these weird things, or it's like these adults that are like have a children audience, so they're talking like kids. Like Miss Rachel, if you're familiar with that one. There's another one called Blippi. There's these weird, and in my mind it's so weird because it's an adult who
is catering,
talks like a little boy, and ooh, let's go look at this fire truck, and I don't like that, dude. I don't want my son seeing that. And then I catch like him watching some videos where like a YouTuber is just like, I saw him one day, this one YouTuber who I hate, this kid, what's his name? I think it's Jack something.
Oh, I think I know what you're talking about. Like
This kid,
the white kid with like the curly fucking
Yes,
brown
that kid.
broccoli hair.
That kid.
Yeah.
I hate his guts.
Yes, me
And
too.
my son was on one of his videos one day, and my
Mhm.
son's 7. He
Yeah.
might have been 6 at the time when I caught
Yeah.
him. And I just shut it down. And now I put like parental blocks on all of his stuff.
That's good.
But somehow, some way, some of these videos like make it in there.
Yeah,
and it's
they don't get filtered.
Yeah, it's weird shit. And so usually my wife and I agree like no YouTube, but
Mhm.
like if it's a long car ride, we'll just let him watch YouTube.
Yeah.
I'll tell him, no weird videos. And it's weird. And my daughter, she'll be 5 this year, and she just likes watching like Bluey.
Right.
And other kid shows, but
Easy.
sometimes she'll like, oh, what's my brother doing? He's watching YouTube. Let's go watch.
Mhm.
And then I'll see the weird thing. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
So it's tough with like computer, and I don't want to be that dad that's like no screen time.
Right.
Let's go do this. I
Yeah.
want my kids to just be free and have like a
normal
free childhood.
Yeah.
I don't want to micromanage their lives and tell them don't do this, don't do that, and baby
Right.
them at every turn. But sometimes it's like you can't help it.
Yeah, you got to step in.
Yeah.
I mean, like, yeah, and there's, I mean, I always talk about this with my friends. Like, our generation, we grew up on the wild west of the internet. Like, you could go on Google Images and see like porn, gore, and everything in between just by clicking over a couple pages.
Yeah, dude, I was like 7, and some kid I went to Del Sur.
Mm-hmm.
Some kid at Del Sur was like, Jesse, check out this video. And it's this dude just getting decapitated.
Yeah.
Clear as day. I'm like, I have no business seeing this when I'm 7
Your
years
brain
old.
formed
period.
like a bad wrinkle.
Yeah,
Like, right
dude.
there.
Whoa, I shouldn't have seen that. So it's like you, as a parent now, you try to...
You know it's possible.
Yeah, you try to stop that from happening, but at the same time, it's like almost inevitable because like when he's at school, he goes to a public school. I don't know what these kids are like.
Right.
I know his friends. He has like a couple close friends that have hung out at our house, and they go on play dates to the park together. They play baseball together. But some of these other kids, like when we go pick them up, I'll hear them saying some crazy shit.
Yeah. Yeah. Like,
Especially this brain rot. His one friend who's also 7. He'll see me and he'll go, "What's up, skibbity toilet?"
yeah.
And in his mind, it's the funniest thing ever. But I'm like, dude, why is this 7-year-old calling me that right now?
Dude, I know. I see all of that like Gen Alpha brain rot
dude,
shit, and
it's ridiculous.
It's so nuts.
It's kind of funny too, and it's funny seeing like how each generation like evolves with this cringy shit.
Yeah.
Like when I first started dating my wife, we were both 20 at the time, and so she has her mom has 4 kids.
Mm.
Her mom has a twin sister who also has 4 kids.
Wow.
Same age as all her siblings.
Whoa.
And they live like a mile apart. So they're
all like siblings essentially.
Yeah, essentially they're all siblings, but the youngest one, she's I think like a sophomore in high school, and the oldest one, younger than my wife. When we started dating, she was like a freshman in high school. And so I saw and they're mainly girls. I saw all the girls and the boys like go from like these 7-year-old kids or however old they were all the way now to their graduated high school and they're in college and they're doing this. But like, I remember when TikTok first came out and the girls were like freshmen or sophomores, and I would do a 2-hour drive from base because I was still active duty. Drove all the way up here to Palmdale. I opened the door, and it's like all 9 girls just making some TikTok.
Yeah, like doing a dance.
Yeah, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what did I just walk into? This is so cringe.
Yeah.
And now it's like 10 times worse than that with this new generation. That's like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, dude.
I know, and it's funny. Like we had our own era of cringe for like our gen, where it was
The
like
swag era, dude.
Yeah, yeah,
Undefeated.
Yeah.
Undefeated.
Or the just like the Instagram days, like when it first came out, and like the Snapchat filters and like the rainbow mouth and the dog with the tongue and shit, where like we were posting that shit with our full chest, like I look great.
We were in actually like a wild time because what are you, 28?
I'll turn 28 this year. Yeah.
28. So I'm 29. I'll turn 30 this year. And like when we were kids, there's no internet.
Right.
Like when we were youngins.
Yeah.
We went from like the bulky ass flip phones to the Razor.
Mm-hmm.
My very first ever phone I got was one of the like sideways flip phones for
Oh, yeah.
texting. I thought I was so sick.
Dude, yeah.
And then the internet started popping, and then social media came out, and now these kids who are like 10 years old, that's all they've known their whole life.
Yeah,
and
it's
like
pretty
a huge
consistent.
difference, dude.
Yeah.
Huge difference.
Yeah, I feel super, super grateful for being able to just miss that.
Yep.
When I was like so young, and like so much of my time as a kid where like I had my fun was outdoors.
Yes.
Or
exactly.
at the very least like playing on like a GameCube or like a PS1 or something like that.
Oh,
But
the memories.
yeah, but even then like those games weren't like engineered to like hijack your dopamine. They were just like, dude, it's Tony Hawk, hit a kickflip.
Yeah,
dude. like oh yeah, Super Smash Bros. Like
check out this teabag on Halo.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it was just like these games were also being made for everyone, like not just specifically engineered for a very like certain like marketed group.
Yeah.
And like trying to make it addictive and trying to make it where there's like aspects of like gambling or micro purchases and shit.
Yep.
It's just like, oh no, you buy a game, you own it, and you play it. And if you didn't want to do that, you'd go outside with your buddies, you'd play wiffle ball or ride bikes or do whatever. And that was like the best. Like getting home when the streetlights came on and you're exhausted, you drink from the hose whenever you need water. Yeah. And then like, I don't know, like TV still had like channels with times.
Yep.
Where like, oh, if you wanted to watch your favorite show, you had to be at that channel at 8 p.m.
At that show, yeah.
Yeah, and if not, you missed it, and you better hope you like VHS recorded it. And it was just so nice that not everything was just constantly infiltrating like your every moment.
Yep.
And like we just missed it, man. Like
I agree, dude.
Like one generation off, and we'd be like glued to screens as like toddlers. Like
it is wild, yeah. And like a lot of times now, like I don't see kids outside nearly as much anymore. Maybe just because I'm not a kid anymore, so I don't see them. But
right.
When I was a kid, yeah, the same thing. Like there'd be times where I just fucking gave my parents a heart attack because after school, I'm like, you know what? I'm not gonna ride my bus home. I'm gonna just ride my friend's bus home. I'm gonna hang out at his house.
Right.
I show up at 8 p.m. that night, and they're like, "We're about to call the cops. We didn't know where you were." Now, if my son did that or my daughter did that,
my God.
oh, dude, I would freak the fuck out.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's another thing out here, dude. Is I didn't realize as a kid like how dangerous Palmdale and Lancaster is.
Yeah.
As a kid, especially when I got my license, dude. I was raised in like a very like free household. Like I didn't have to check in with my parents to do a lot of stuff. Like I would on a school night, middle of the night, 9 p.m. I text my friends, "Hey, let's go do this." I wouldn't tell my parents. I would just grab my keys and I would bounce. Or on a weekend, I'd be like, all right, hey, Mom, I'm going to go to Tyler's house. I don't know when I'll be back. Okay. Now there's like, my wife's whole family has like this Life 360 app where you can track everybody's location. They know where they are at all times.
How fast they're in the car.
How fast they're going, who they're going to be with, what they're doing. And it's just wild to me. And then now when I got out of the military, I bought my first house, which I still own here in Lancaster. It's by the Quartz Hill Little League.
Oh, nice, nice.
And just as an adult now with kids, I would see all this sketchy shit going on in the neighborhood. The AV scanner page is like, oh, this gas station just got, robbed at gunpoint. I'm like, dude, that's like a half mile from my house.
Yeah.
And I see all this crazy shit happening. I'm like, is this like new? Or is it now I'm just realizing it? Yeah. Because I got myself in a lot of sketchy situations, especially as a teenager with a car, going to all these house parties every weekend and going and doing all this just wild shit and all the shenanigans we would pull and sneaking out of our house and going TPing and you don't know if you're gonna TP someone's house and he comes out with a gun and there was a time at a party where this dude pulled out a gun and pointed it straight in my face.
Oh my God.
And at the time, like the next day I woke up like, oh, no big deal, just a wild night, you know? Yeah. Now as a dad, I'm like, oh fuck,
dude. Yeah, I mean, I grew up in East Lancaster till about 3rd grade, and then our neighborhood got so bad that my parents were like, we don't even care if like we can't fully afford it, like we're gonna move to
that's essentially Lancaster. What happened. Mine was a little younger though. I was in East Palmdale for I think until I was like 6 or 7, and then we moved to West Lancaster.
Yeah, and so I know for a fact like it was still happening over there.
Yeah.
And maybe it's like the area in which it's been dangerous has like expanded some, but I think it's kind of always been that way.
Kind of hot over here.
Yeah. And we just like it's normal. Like
yep, it's just normal, dude.
Yeah, because you would always compare it, right? Like you'd be like, oh well, it's not like Watts, it's not like Compton, it's not like all these like really like at the time dangerous places in LA. So like, oh, like, you know, the suburbs and the desert's nothing compared to like where there's drive-by shootings all the time. So then you would just deem this place as normal, or safe, and then you'd like I meet people. Like I met some people last night, like at some of these like parties in LA, where they've lived just in affluent areas their whole life, and they are like completely taken aback by shit that we consider normal or like what we grew up around.
Oh yeah.
Just like the way that we talk, or the stuff that's like we joke about, or like oh yeah, no, you just do that, just go ahead, like just go walk over there and do that. And they're like, whoa, and I'm like, don't overthink it, like what? And then it kind of just puts some perspective where like, oh, this is funny, and Joel's gonna kill me for saying this, but there was a day we were all out getting dinner, like a bunch of our friends, and a bunch of the women that were with us were notably attractive, and I was fucking with Joel, and I had like poked him in his sides a bunch, and he started like giggling, and he was like, you tickling me in front of the bitches, bro? Like what the fuck is wrong with you? Like,
and scared of hoes, bro.
Yeah. And I told that story last night, and the girl that I told it to was like, he called them bitches.
Yeah.
And dude, I was like,
that's where you draw the line. Yeah.
And I'm like, everyone does. They call themselves bitches. Like people don't do that where you're from. It's like, oh, like I grew up in the Bay. Like, and I'm like, oh, I know like where you came from. Like it's, and it's just so mind boggling to me, because I'm like, that wasn't even the point of the conversation. Like, that's not why I told the story.
That's just what they considered. Like, okay, what the hell?
Yeah. And I'm like, if that's taboo for you, like you would not handle.
That's surprising, especially like in the Bay or LA.
Right.
Being a fireman in LA, you definitely see like why it's pretty fucking wild over there.
Right. But they're like pockets. And that's the thing, is like, I think this because this was like a very nice white woman, and so I'm sure she came from like a very nice pocket of white people,
especially in like the Bay.
Yes. I don't think it was like, you know, like
being up in
Oakland.
the Bay too. That's where my reserve unit trains out of, is Oakland, Alameda. And being up there, I'm like, this place is a fucking dump, dude. It's disgusting.
I do not. I've driven through Oakland. I'm not a fan.
It's gross. And then I work in LA, and especially like some of these overtime days that I get at like a different station, like at Nines. Nines is like the busiest station I told you about, but it's in like the heart of LA, and Skid Row is in their first and district. And have you ever been to Skid Row?
Yeah, I mean,
dude,
it's been a minute. I've been to areas that are like pretty close and pretty like comparable, but I can't remember the last time I went down the old famous like main Skid Row.
That is one of those things that's like, you have to see it to believe it. And being a first responder out there, like, we'll go on calls of some like random, you know, homeless guy who is OD'd. Right. And you go out there, and I'm talking like thousands of people, all homeless, all on one street. Tents, trash, needles, feces. They're like right in front of everybody, just shooting up. And there's this new drug. I don't want to say new. It's like, it's pretty old now, but it literally makes them like zombies. I don't know if you've seen it. They'll be standing in the middle of the street, right, like outside of like town hall, and they're just stuck in this like weird bent over position. They're just high as shit. They're probably in the Netherlands in their head. Yeah. But they're just stuck. And there's hundreds of those people on that drugs. There's these homeless dudes fighting. There's like gang members out there slinging their dope. Fights going on. The homeless people will like have wars with each other and set their shit on fire. And we'll go out for that. And it's just crazy, because all within like a mile, there's thousands of these homeless people.
Yeah, it's like a colony.
It is. Yeah, it's its own colony, dude. And like, that is actually crazy to see. You can see it on social media, but like, until you go there it's pretty wild, and it's so normal. Like you were saying, like what's normal for these people or that people. It's so normal in LA now that like amidst all that disgusting chaos, there's like one dude who's like on his bike ride commute to work, and he's just listening with his headphones.
It's an audiobook.
Yeah, obliviously through all of this. Like it's just another day.
Yeah.
But if somebody else would come to see this, they'll be like, "Oh my fucking goodness, dude!"
Yeah.
The homeless aspect, in especially Southern California and in Oakland where I've been at, it is just, I can't believe it's like that bad.
Yeah, a couple cities that have surprised me lately, that I've been to that also have like pretty bad situations is Vancouver.
In Canada,
up in
really.
Canada, they have like their own like Skid Row up in their city. But they recently had just removed like all of the structures and tents from like a city wide like ordinance or whatever it was, but that didn't stop anything. So they're just all like out there, just like sitting on the concrete, and like we were like walking through Vancouver, and we're like navigating around these people, and they're just like gloves on, needles in, like right there, in
super
front of
normal.
You. Yeah, like meth out. And I'm like, oh, pardon me. Like, don't let me get in the way.
Oops, sorry, bud.
Yeah, don't want to ruin your eye.
I imagine most, at least in the U.S., I imagine most major cities have some sort of despair when it comes to that. Like Los Angeles, New York, I'm sure, Boston, fucking Atlanta, all these other different major cities, I imagine are suffering pretty bad from situations like that.
Yeah, and the other city that I was at recently that also shocked me is Santa Barbara.
Really?
I don't know if you've been to Santa
Wow,
Barbara.
yeah, I love Santa Barbara.
It's bad.
Really?
Yeah, and it's felt like a fairly recent development because I was there a few years ago, and it was not what it is now.
Yeah.
And it's like obviously like there are still good parts and bad parts, but it's just kind of like more like sprinkled throughout the entire city, and then there are pockets of like really bad.
That's crazy. I always imagine those areas like
super affluent.
Yeah, I would always like consider living in like Ventura, or
right,
Santa Barbara, or up in like San Luis Obispo.
Yeah.
And then damn, that's crazy. I didn't know it was like kind of suffering like that.
Yeah, and if next time you're out there, like, don't be shocked if it's like more LA-ish.
Yeah.
But then,
which is bad.
Yeah, of course.
They're gonna keep heading north, dude. I feel like Lancaster in a few years will probably start getting pretty bad.
Yeah, I mean, it has its areas, but like I feel like out here it's super heavily swayed by city management. Yeah. Where in like LA, it's such a big problem. It's like you almost wonder like what the fuck they can even do about it. But funny enough, the city that I went to recently that had the least amount of homeless that I saw, and granted I only stayed on the north side of it, but even then, was Chicago. I was in Chicago last year, and I know that like South Side is where it's like pretty bad, and we didn't go to South Side. Yeah. But even in North Side Chicago, which is like very nice, tons of parks, all this stuff, like barely any homelessness. And that was like fairly shocking to me because I always view like LA, Chicago, and New York as like the big three. Yeah. And so I expect them to all have like very similar issues, and it was pretty different compared to LA. So I don't know. And it makes you wonder like what is LA doing wrong, or what is Chicago doing right in these certain aspects where these things are happening, or are they just like congregating them all to like one corner?
I feel like in LA it's bad too because like the weather is a little nicer here. Mm-hmm. So like bums from Boston don't want to freeze to death, so they're like, let's just go to spend my whole life savings getting to SoCal, and then at least in the wintertime it'll suck, but I'll still be alive.
I won't die. Yeah.
Maybe that goes into it, but it's just bad all over, dude.
Yeah, it's a trip. I don't know, but I don't know if you have any other topics you want to touch on or anything else.
No, dude. Unless you want to ask me about anything else, I mean, I'll try to be an open book.
Mm-hmm. I think. I don't know. I think we're fairly solid. I know like how busy you are, and I know like how much you got going on. It like warmed my heart when I saw like your story the other day or yesterday when you were like with all the boys, and I was like, I fucking love all of them. Like it looked like you guys were having a great night. And so it's just cool. Like I enjoy when I know as adults like we all only get busier, and we only spend like we're able to like devote less and less time to like the more like extracurricular shit. So like when I get to see that, I'm like, fuck yeah, like that was probably a great night.
It was a good time, dude, and I love coming down here. I'll always have a place in my heart for Lancaster, but at the
Mhm.
same time, I also fucking hate it here.
Oh yeah.
Like when I drove in Friday night, Saturday morning, I woke up. It's just disgusting, windy,
Yeah.
cold. I'm like, why am I back here?
Oh, dude, it ain't Oceanside.
Yeah, dude. Versus Oceanside, like a bad day is like 60 degrees.
Yeah.
Slightly chilly.
Yeah. Oh no,
So
a
I got
sweater.
spoiled, yeah. And then in the summertime, like last summer, we were at the beach hanging out. It's like 80 degrees. The next day, we drove up to Lancaster. It's like 120. I
Yeah.
was like, how did I fucking grow up here, dude? This
Yeah.
sucks.
Yeah. It's unlike a lot of places. I mean, our
Yeah,
winters
dude.
are fucking cold. And our
Summers are way
fucking
too
hot,
fucking hot.
and
And
everything
then
else
on
is
the
windy.
good days, it's just gross wind. It's
Yeah.
really windy out here. I hate it.
Yeah. Yeah. But I don't know, man. I think we kind of
I
covered.
think you're good, dude. I
Yeah.
appreciate you inviting me over here to do this. I really
Hell yeah,
appreciate it.
man.
It's a cool opportunity.
Yeah, I knew that this was gonna be one of my favorite ones, and we were gonna get into some fun
Hell
shit.
yeah, dude. Glad.
So, dude, yeah,
Appreciate it.
and we'll be able to. I'm sure we'll be able to do it again in the future, and we can dive into like more like little details or specific stories, and we can just share on that front. But yeah, I think we covered most of it, and I won't take up too much of your time. But
easy day, dude.
absolutely.
Appreciate you.
So, to everyone listening, thank you so much for swinging by. I hope you enjoyed yourself. And yeah, I'm going to keep the outro short and sweet. Catch you next week. Catch you later.